Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from An American Politician, a novel by F. Marion Crawford. Published in 1884, An American Politician is a political novel that focuses on the highly disputed election of U.S. President Rutherford B. Hayes in 1876, which saw 3 southern U.S. states discard enough black votes to allow Hayes to win both the states and the election. The story of what has come to be called the Hayes controversy is told through the fictional eyes of John Harrington, a Massachusetts lawyer, as he struggles against blind partisanism and rampant corruption in the U.S. Senate during a tied election. Today, we will be reading from Chapter 2 of An American Politician. With that, let's begin. Fate, the artist, mixes her own colors. She grinds them with a pestle in the fashion of the old masters, and out of the most strange pigments, she produces often only soft, neutral tints for background and shadow, needing a vast deal of bright colors away among the grays and browns. But now and then, she takes a palette loaded with strong paint and a great brush and splashes a startling full-length portrait upon the canvas, without much regard for drawing or general composition, but with very startling effect. To paint well needs lifelong study. To paint so as to merely attract attention needs courage and a heart hardened against artistic sensitiveness. John Harrington was a high light against the mezzotint of his surroundings. He was a constant source of interest and, not infrequently, of terror to the good town of Boston. True, he was a Bostonian himself, a chip of the old block, whose progenitors had lived in Salem, and whose very name breathed pilgrim memories. He even had a teapot that had come over in the Mayflower. This was greatly venerated, and whenever John Harrington said anything more than usually modern, his friends brandished the teapot, morally speaking, in his defense, and put it in the clouds as a kind of rainbow, a promise that Puritan blood could not go wrong. Nevertheless, John Harrington continued to startle his fellow townsmen by his writings and sayings, so that many of the grave sort shook their heads and swore that he sympathized with the Irish and believed in Chinese labor. As a matter of fact, he did not mince matters. Endowed with unbounded courage and an extraordinary command of language, when he got upon his feet, he spoke his mind in a way that was good to hear. Moreover, he had the strong oratorical temperament that forces attention and commands men in a body. He said that things were wrong and should be put right. And when he had said so for half an hour to a couple of thousand people, most of them were ready to follow him out of the hall and go and put things right on the spot with their own hands. As yet, the opportunity had not offered for proceeding in so simple a manner, but the aforesaid Bostonians of the graver sort said that John Harrington would some day be seen heading a desperate mob of socialists in an assault upon the State House. What he had to do with socialism, or to what end he should thus fiercely invade the headquarters of all earthly respectability, was not exactly apparent. But the picture thus evoked in the minds of the solemn burghers satisfactorily defined for them the personality of the man, and they said it again and said it again. It was somewhat remarkable that he had never been called clever. At first, he was regarded as a fool by most of his own class, though he always had friends who believed in him. By and by, as it came to be seen that he had a purpose and would be listened to while he stated it, Boston said there was something in him. But he was never said to be clever or bright. He was John Harrington, neither more nor less. He was never even called Jack. He was a friend of Mrs. Wyndham's. Her keen instincts had long ago recognized the true metal in the man. And all of us who came and went in her house, there was none more welcome than he. Sam Wyndham utterly disagreed with him in politics, but always defended him in private, saying that he would calm down a lot when he got older, and that meanwhile he was a very good fellow if you did not stir him up. He was, therefore, very intimate at the Sam Wyndham establishment. In fact, at the very hour when Pocock Vancouver was drinking Mrs. Sam's tea, John had intended to be enjoying the same privilege. Unfortunately, for his intention, he was caught elsewhere and could not get away. He was drinking tea, it is true, but the position in which he found himself was not entirely to his taste. Old Miss Snitchtapji, whose niece was Miss Josephine Thorne, had lately come over from England to pass the winter, and had asked John Harrington to call that afternoon. The old lady believed in John on account of the Mayflower teapot, and consequently thought him a desirable acquaintance for her niece. Accordingly, John went to the house and met Miss Sybil Brandon just as she was leaving it, which he regretted, suspecting that her society would have been more interesting than that of Miss Thorne. As it turns out, he was right, for his first impression of the young English girl was not altogether agreeable, and he found himself obliged to stay and talk to her until an ancient lady, who had come to gossip with Mrs. Senachty and was fully carrying out her intentions, should go away and make it possible for him to take his leave without absolutely abandoning Miss Thorne in the corner of the room she had selected for the tete-a-tete. This has been an excerpt from An American Politician on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more excerpts from original texts, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there is a work you would like to hear, be sure to like the video and leave a comment listing it down below. Thanks for listening.